Dr. Emma Rodriguez was staring at the footage when her hands began to shake. The timestamp showed 3:47 a.m., December 15, 1987. On the grainy monitor, she watched Professor David Blackstone's expedition team descend into what they thought was a natural ice cave. What they found instead would make her question everything she knew about Arctic geology.
The recording device had been running for 6 days straight when the rescue team found it. 9 researchers had entered the cave system. None of them came back out.
Before we uncover what really happened, a quick whisper. This channel explores mysteries history tried to bury. Lost expeditions, missing people, discoveries that vanished. If you're drawn to stories mainstream history won't tell, consider subscribing. Now back to Professor Blackstone and the discovery that changed Arctic research forever. Professor David Blackstone wasn't a man who believed in the impossible. At 51, he had spent 30 years studying Arctic formations, mapping previously unexplored regions of northern Canada, and developing ice drilling techniques that revolutionized polar research. His reputation was built on methodical precision and scientific skepticism,
which made what happened to his team all the more disturbing.
The expedition began on December 8, 1987, with what should have been a routine geological survey of the Mackenzie Delta region. The Canadian Arctic Research Institute had detected unusual seismic activity in the area, rhythmic tremors that occurred every 4 hours and 17 minutes with mathematical precision. Dr. Lisa Chen, the Institute's seismologist, had been monitoring the tremors for 8 months. They weren't caused by tectonic movement, glacial shifting, or any known geological phenomenon. The patterns were too regular, too purposeful. Something beneath the permafrost was generating organized activity. Blackstone's team consisted of 9 specialists. Dr. Marcus Webb, a geophysicist whose electromagnetic detection equipment could penetrate ice formations up to 300 feet deep. Dr. Sarah Morrison, a climatologist who specialized in ancient ice analysis. Dr. Klaus Weber, a German engineer responsible for the team's drilling and excavation equipment, and 6 other researchers whose expertise covered everything from radio communications to emergency medicine.
Their mission was straightforward: locate the source of the seismic activity, conduct comprehensive geological analysis, and determine whether the tremors posed any threat to research installations in the region. But what they discovered challenged every assumption about Arctic geology. On December 10th, their second day in the field, Dr. Webb's electromagnetic equipment detected something that shouldn't have existed. Approximately 40 feet beneath the surface, his instruments revealed a hollow space, not just a small cavity, but an extensive chamber system that stretched in multiple directions.
"Professor, you need to see these readings," Webb called to Blackstone, who was reviewing ice core samples from their morning drilling session. "I'm detecting what appears to be a network of interconnected spaces beneath us."
Blackstone examined Webb's data with growing confusion. The electromagnetic signatures indicated chambers of impossible size, some extending over 200 feet in diameter. More concerning was the temperature data. While the surface temperature hovered around -30 degrees Fahrenheit, the chambers below registered a steady 68 degrees.
"That's not possible," Dr. Morrison said when she reviewed the readings. "There's no geothermal activity in this region, no underground heating sources that could maintain elevated temperatures in ice formations."
But the instruments didn't lie. Something warm, something large, and something structured existed beneath their feet. The team spent the rest of the day conducting ground-penetrating radar surveys. What they found transformed their routine geological expedition into something unprecedented. The chamber system wasn't natural. The radar revealed passages carved with geometric precision, connecting spaces that formed complex patterns extending in all directions. Most disturbing of all were the seismic readings. The rhythmic tremors weren't coming from random geological activity. They were originating from the chamber system itself. The realization that they were being observed added urgency to their research efforts. If the installation's creators were still active, the team needed to understand their intentions and capabilities before making contact. Dr. Morrison's continued analysis of the ice samples revealed something that changed their understanding of the timeline. The ancient ice formations showed signs of recent modification. Someone had been maintaining the installation, updating its technology, and expanding its capabilities. The ice in the newer sections of the installation is different, Morrison explained. It shows signs of artificial formation within the last 20 years. This installation isn't just ancient, it's been continuously developed and maintained.
The team began documenting everything they found with obsessive detail. If they were dealing with an active intelligence, they needed to gather as much information as possible about its capabilities and intentions.
But they weren't the only ones interested in the installation.
On their second day exploring the installation, Dr. Weber made a discovery that changed their understanding of what they had found.
While examining what appeared to be a control center carved into the central chamber, Weber discovered devices that were clearly designed for recording and monitoring, crystalline structures connected to metallic instruments that showed signs of recent activation. "Professor, these devices are operational," Weber announced over the radio. "They're not ancient ruins. This installation is still functioning."
The recording devices were monitoring electromagnetic activity, seismic patterns, and what appeared to be atmospheric conditions throughout the Arctic region. Data was being collected, processed and stored in crystalline matrices that served as information storage systems.
But most disturbing was the evidence that the devices had been recording human activity.
Dr. Webb's analysis of the electromagnetic signatures revealed that the installation had been monitoring Arctic research operations for decades. Every government expedition, every scientific survey, every research installation in the northern regions had been observed and documented by the mysterious technology. "They've been watching us," Webb told the team during their evening planning session. "Whoever built this installation has been monitoring human activity in the Arctic for at least 50 years. The installation contained technology that didn't belong to any known civilization. Metallic devices of unknown composition arranged on platforms carved from the ice itself. Instruments that resembled nothing in any engineering database, yet showed signs of sophisticated design and construction." Dr. Chen, analyzing the devices with portable X-ray equipment, determined that they were constructed from materials that didn't appear in any periodic table. The metallic components exhibited properties that suggested atomic structures beyond current human understanding.
"These aren't just ancient artifacts," Chen reported during their first night camping within the installation. "Whatever civilization created these devices had technological capabilities that exceed our current scientific knowledge."
But the most unsettling discovery was what appeared to be documentation. Carved into the chamber walls were detailed diagrams showing Arctic geography, ice formation patterns, and what appeared to be geological surveys of regions throughout northern Canada. The diagrams were accurate to current satellite mapping data, despite being carved into ice that predated human civilization by millennia. Professor Blackstone studied the wall carvings with growing alarm. These diagrams show geological features that weren't discovered until the 1950s. Whoever created this installation had knowledge of Arctic geography that we've only recently acquired through modern technology. Within hours, the entire expedition team had descended into what they began calling the installation. Each researcher brought specialized equipment designed to analyze different aspects of their discovery. Dr. Webb's electromagnetic readings revealed that the crystalline formations weren't just providing light. They were generating complex energy patterns that seemed to serve multiple functions. The crystals pulsed in rhythm with the seismic tremors the team had been sent to investigate. Dr. Morrison's ice analysis produced results that challenged everything they knew about Arctic geology. The ice in the chambers was ancient. Carbon dating suggested formation over 10,000 years ago. But the chambers themselves showed no signs of natural formation processes. "This isn't glacial ice," Morrison explained to the team as they explored deeper into the installation. "The molecular structure is different. It's as if someone found a way to manipulate ice formation at the atomic level."
But the most disturbing discoveries came from the artifacts they found throughout the chamber system. Dr. Blackstone made the decision that would define the rest of their lives. They would access the chamber system. Using Weber's drilling equipment, they began excavating an entry point above the largest detected chamber. The work was slow and dangerous,
Creating an opening through 40 feet of permafrost while maintaining structural integrity required precise engineering, but Weber's experience with Arctic construction projects had prepared him for exactly this type of challenge. As they drilled deeper, the temperature readings became more alarming. At 20 feet, their equipment detected rising temperatures. At 30 feet, the drill encountered no resistance. They had broken through into open space.
Weber's first descent into the chamber system took place on December 12th at 2:15 p.m. Equipped with full safety gear, video recording equipment and constant radio communication with the surface team, he lowered himself into what they expected to be a natural ice cave. What he found instead was impossible.
"Professor, the chamber is artificial." Weber's voice crackled through the radio. "The walls are carved, not natural. Someone or something created this space."
The video feed from Weber's helmet camera showed smooth walls covered with symbols that resembled no known writing system. The chamber was illuminated by a soft blue-white glow emanating from crystalline formations embedded in the ice. Most importantly, the space showed signs of recent activity. "There are tools here," Weber reported. "Instruments I don't recognize. And Professor, there are footprints in the ice. Human footprints."
On December 14th, their fourth day within the installation, Dr. Chen detected electromagnetic transmissions that weren't coming from the ancient recording devices. Modern radio signals were being transmitted from somewhere within the chamber system, signals that used frequencies and encryption methods consistent with contemporary human technology.
"We're not alone down here," Chen announced during the team's morning briefing. "Someone else is operating communication equipment within the installation." The signals were brief and transmitted at irregular intervals, but they were clearly human in origin. Someone with access to advanced communication technology was present in the installation, observing the team's activities and reporting to unknown recipients.
Professor Blackstone made the decision that would define the rest of their expedition. They would attempt to make contact with whoever was sharing the installation. Following the electromagnetic signatures, the team moved deeper into the chamber system than they had previously explored. The passages led to sections of the installation that showed clear signs of recent construction and modern technology integration.
In a chamber approximately 100 feet below their original entry point, Blackstone's team encountered something that challenged their understanding of Arctic research operations. A group of 6 individuals, equipped with technology that made their expedition equipment look primitive, was conducting systematic analysis of the installation's ancient devices. The strangers wore no identifying uniforms or insignia, but their equipment and operational methods suggested military or intelligence training. When Professor Blackstone announced their presence, the strangers responded with calm professionalism that indicated they had been expecting this encounter.
"Dr. Blackstone," the leader of the unknown group said, addressing him by name despite no introductions having been made, "We've been monitoring your team's progress since you entered the installation. We need to discuss what you've discovered."
The stranger introduced himself only as Director Hayes. His accent was difficult to place, and when Blackstone asked what organization he represented, Hayes's answer was deliberately evasive. "We're conducting research similar to yours, Dr. Blackstone. The installation has been of interest to various scientific communities for some time."
Blackstone's team had not discovered the installation by accident. Their expedition was part of a careful selection process designed to identify human researchers capable of handling advanced knowledge responsibly. "Dr. Blackstone, your team was chosen based on psychological profiles, research capabilities, and demonstrated ability to work collaboratively under stress," Hayes explained. "The seismic anomalies that brought you here were artificially generated to attract scientific investigation."
Each member of Blackstone's team possessed specific qualifications that made them suitable for integration training.
Dr. Webb's electromagnetic expertise, Dr. Morrison's ice analysis capabilities, Dr. Chen's seismological knowledge, and Dr. Weber's engineering skills were all needed for the research protocols they would be trained to conduct.
"Integration training takes approximately 6 months," Hayes continued. "You'll learn to operate installation technology, communicate with the research network, and contribute to ongoing studies of terrestrial development. But the decision to participate was irreversible. Once you begin integration training, you become part of a classified research community that operates outside normal human institutions, Hayes warned. Your previous careers, your relationships with colleagues who aren't part of the program, your connections to mainstream scientific institutions, all of that changes permanently. To help them understand what they were being offered, Hayes arranged a demonstration of installation capabilities. The installation can access historical records of any location on Earth, Hayes explained, activating crystalline interfaces that responded to his touch. It can show you actual events from any time period in human history. The chamber walls became transparent, revealing three-dimensional projections that showed ancient Rome at the height of the empire. The detail was perfect. Individual people moving through streets, conversations in Latin, architectural details that matched archaeological discoveries. These aren't reconstructions, Hayes said as the team watched in amazement. These are actual recordings made by monitoring stations that observed human civilization throughout its development. Dr. Chen reached toward the projection, her hand passing through images of Roman citizens going about their daily lives. You have records of everything, every historical event, every lost civilization, every mystery that archaeologists have tried to solve. Everything, Hayes confirmed. The installation's creators document the complete development of every species they study. Humanity's entire history, from the first use of tools to current space exploration efforts, has been recorded and preserved. But the demonstration revealed something that changed the team's understanding of human history itself. The projections showed historical events that didn't match accepted historical timelines. Ancient civilizations with technological capabilities that exceeded current archaeological understanding. Human societies that had achieved advanced development thousands of years before conventional history suggested such advancement was possible. Your species has achieved technological civilization multiple times, Hayes explained, as the projections showed advanced cities that were subsequently destroyed by natural disasters. The installation's creators have been providing guidance during each cycle, helping humanity recover from setbacks and avoid repeating previous mistakes. Ama asul şokedi geolanshe, Hayes'in bir sonraki açıklamasıydı. Dr. Blackstone, your team isn't the first human expedition to discover this installation, and the choice you're about to make has been made by researchers before you. But some of those researchers discovered something about the installation's creators that changed everything we thought we knew about their intentions. Hayes paused, studying each team member's face carefully. Before you make your decision about integration training, you need to understand that the installation's creators aren't just researchers. They're evaluating whether humanity is ready for survival. Professor Blackstone looked at his team members, seeing the same mixture of excitement and apprehension in their faces that he felt. They were being offered the opportunity of a lifetime, access to knowledge and technology that could advance human understanding by centuries. But they were also being asked to abandon their previous lives and commit to research protocols they didn't fully understand.
What happens if we refuse?
Dr. Morrison asked. Hayes's expression became serious. Your memories of the installation and this encounter would be modified to protect the security of ongoing operations. You would remember discovering an interesting but ultimately routine ice cave system. Your careers would continue normally, but you would never know what you chose to walk away from. Dr. Weber had been examining the installation technology throughout Hayes's explanations. The power source for all this equipment, he said. Where does it come from? These crystals can't generate enough energy to run global monitoring networks. Hayes activated a display that showed energy flow patterns throughout the installation. The crystals tap into quantum energy fields that exist throughout the universe. The installation's creators learned to harness zero-point energy millions of years ago. That's how they can maintain monitoring networks on thousands of worlds simultaneously. The scope of what they were dealing with became clear. They weren't just encountering an ancient civilization that had visited Earth. They were meeting representatives of a galactic community of researchers whose capabilities exceeded human imagination. Hayes revealed that the partnership between humans and the installation's creators
had begun during World War II, when military radar installations detected electromagnetic anomalies that couldn't be explained by human technology.
Initial contact was established in 1947, Hayes said, showing them archived documentation that challenged everything they thought they knew about modern history. A crashed research probe in New Mexico led to direct communication with installation networks.
The partnership had expanded gradually, with selected human researchers being introduced to installation technology and training in communication protocols with the ancient civilization. The goal was to prepare humanity for eventual integration into what Hayes called the galactic research community. The installation's creators study intelligent life throughout the galaxy, Hayes explained. Species that demonstrate scientific curiosity and social cooperation are eventually invited to participate in broader research initiatives. Humanity is approaching that threshold. Dr. Chen looked at the global monitoring displays with new understanding. The technological advances of the last 50 years, space exploration, computer development, genetic research, how much of that was guided by installation input?
Hayes' smile was enigmatic. More than you might expect, less than you might fear. The installation's creators believe that meaningful development must come from species' own efforts. They provide guidance, not solutions.
The chamber Hayes brought them to served as a command center where ancient crystalline technology interfaced with modern computer systems. Screens displayed real-time data from monitoring stations around the world, showing electromagnetic activity, seismic patterns, and what appeared to be human population movements.
The installation's creators are researchers, Hayes continued, activating displays that showed global maps with thousands of data points. They study intelligent life development wherever it occurs. Earth is one of many worlds they've been observing. Dr. Morrison examined the displays with growing amazement. The data was incredibly detailed. Population statistics, technological development indices, environmental impact measurements, and social organization patterns for every region of Earth.
How long have they been watching us? Professor Blackstone asked.
Since before human civilization began, Hayes replied. They've documented our species' entire development from hunter-gatherer societies to technological civilization. The installation contains records going back over 50,000 years. But the most disturbing revelation came when Hayes showed them current monitoring operations.
They don't just observe passively, Hayes explained, pulling up displays that showed intervention protocols. When species reach critical development thresholds, they provide guidance to prevent self-destruction. They've been doing this for humanity since the 1940s.
Dr. Weber studied the intervention records with growing alarm. You're talking about manipulation of human development, influencing our technological progress, our political decisions, our social evolution. Guidance, not manipulation, Hayes corrected. The installation's creators have observed hundreds of intelligent species throughout the galaxy. They know which development paths lead to survival and which lead to extinction. They intervene only when necessary to prevent species-ending mistakes. Hayes and his team possessed detailed knowledge of the installation that exceeded anything Blackstone's expedition had discovered. They knew the purpose of the ancient recording devices, understood the function of the crystalline technology, and had been studying the installation's capabilities for years.
The installation is a monitoring station, Hayes explained when Blackstone demanded answers. It was created by a civilization whose technological capabilities far exceeded anything in current human experience. They've been observing terrestrial development for millennia. Dr. Webb interrupted with questions about the electromagnetic signatures his equipment had been detecting. Hayes' response revealed the scope of what they were dealing with. The installation is part of a global network, Dr. Blackstone. Similar facilities exist in remote locations around the world. They're all connected, all operational, and all continuously monitoring human activity.
The ancient civilization that created the installation hadn't vanished. They had simply developed beyond the need for obvious presence. They were still observing, still analyzing, still documenting human development with scientific rigor that exceeded human understanding. Why reveal this to us? Dr. Morrison asked. Hayes's answer indicated that the encounter wasn't accidental. Because your team's technological capabilities have reached levels that allow for meaningful communication with the installation systems, you've been selected for integration into ongoing research protocols. Hayes led Blackstone's team deeper into the installation, revealing sections that combined ancient crystalline technology with modern human engineering. The integration was seamless, suggesting decades of collaborative development.
We've been working with the installation's creators since 1952, Hayes explained as they moved through corridors that showed clear evidence of recent construction. What began as accidental discovery has evolved into systematic cooperation.
Dr. Chen stopped abruptly when she recognized some of the modern equipment integrated into the ancient walls. "That's a Soviet-era radio transmitter," she said, pointing to devices that clearly didn't belong in an ancient installation, "and those are American military communication arrays from the 1970s.
Hayes nodded approvingly. "Very observant, Dr. Chen. The installation has been incorporating human technology for decades, studying our development while improving its own capabilities."
Hayes led Blackstone's team to a chamber they hadn't seen before, one that felt different from the rest of the installation. The crystalline formations here pulsed with a deeper, more ominous rhythm, and the ancient symbols carved into the walls seemed more complex, more urgent. "What you're about to learn has been classified at the highest levels for 40 years, Hayes began, activating displays that showed data unlike anything they had seen before. "The installation's creators don't just study intelligent species, they evaluate them."
The displays showed a list of worlds, each marked with symbols that indicated different phases of evaluation. Earth was marked with a symbol that flashed between two states, one representing continued observation, the other representing what Hayes called intervention protocols. "The creators have observed thousands of intelligent species throughout the galaxy," Hayes explained. "Most fail the evaluation. They destroy themselves through warfare, environmental collapse, or technological irresponsibility before achieving galactic maturity." Dr. Morrison studied the displays with growing dread. "What happens to species that fail the evaluation?" Hayes's expression became grim. "They're allowed to continue their natural development without interference, which in most cases leads to extinction within a few centuries."
But that wasn't the most disturbing part of the evaluation protocol. Species that show promise but demonstrate dangerous tendencies are subject to what the creators call guided extinction, Hayes continued. Their development is subtly redirected toward paths that lead to self-destruction, preventing them from becoming threats to other civilizations.
Professor Blackstone demanded to know about the previous human expeditions Hayes had mentioned. The answer revealed a pattern of discovery and disappearance that had been occurring for decades. "The first human contact with an installation occurred in 1952, Hayes said, showing them archived documentation. "A Soviet geological survey team discovered a facility similar to this one beneath the Siberian permafrost. All 12 team members chose integration training."
The displays showed photographs and personnel records of research teams from multiple countries, Americans, Russians, British, Canadians, all of whom had discovered installation facilities and been recruited into the integration program. "How many expeditions?" Dr. Chen asked.
47 confirmed discoveries over 35 years, Hayes replied. 312 researchers total. All chose integration training rather than memory modification.
Blackstone's team was being offered integration training for a specific purpose, to help tip the evaluation in humanity's favor. "Integrated human researchers are the most effective advocates for our species," Hayes explained. "Your insights into human psychology and potential could provide arguments that save our civilization. But the mission came with enormous personal costs. Integration training would erase their previous lives completely. They would become permanent residents of installation facilities, cut off from normal human society, dedicated entirely to research that might determine their species' survival."
"How many integrated researchers are there currently?" Dr. Morrison asked.
212 active researchers working in installation facilities worldwide, Hayes replied. "All former expedition leaders who chose integration over memory modification."
Dr. Weber studied Hayes carefully. "You're integrated, aren't you? You were part of a previous expedition."
Hayes nodded. I led a geological survey team that discovered an installation in Alaska in 19... I've been working to save humanity for 16 years. Hayes revealed that some factions within the Creator's civilization believed humanity had already failed the evaluation. These factions advocated for immediate intervention to prevent humanity from becoming a galactic threat. There's a debate occurring among the Creators about humanity's fate, Hayes explained. Conservative factions want to implement guided extinction protocols now. Progressive factions argue for continued observation and assistance.
The installation network was monitoring this debate in real time, tracking the political dynamics of a civilization whose decisions would determine humanity's future.
How close are they to making a final decision? Professor Blackstone asked. Closer than we'd like, Hayes admitted. Recent human activities, nuclear weapons development, environmental destruction, space militarization, have strengthened the conservative faction's arguments. The most disturbing revelation came when Hayes showed them the evaluation timeline. Humanity's assessment wasn't an open-ended process. There was a deadline.
The Creators have established a 50-year evaluation period for species that achieve space travel capability, Hayes explained. Humanity's evaluation began in 1957 with the launch of Sputnik. The assessment period ends in 2007.
That gave humanity less than 20 years to demonstrate readiness for galactic community membership. If the evaluation was negative, the consequences would be catastrophic.
What happens if we fail? Dr. Chen asked. Hayes' response chilled the entire team. Guided extinction protocols would be implemented. Humanity's technological development would be subtly redirected toward paths that lead to species-wide collapse within 1 to 2 centuries.
But there was another possibility that was even more disturbing. Hayes showed them evaluation reports that revealed the Creator's concerns about human development. The reports detailed humanity's history of warfare, environmental destruction, and technological irresponsibility.
The Creators have observed species that achieved advanced technology while retaining primitive social structures, Hayes explained. Such species typically become aggressive expansionists who threaten other civilizations. Humanity's rapid technological progress, combined with continued warfare and environmental destruction, had raised red flags in the evaluation process. The Creators were questioning whether humanity could be trusted with galactic-level technology and knowledge.
What would trigger a negative evaluation? Dr. Weber asked.
Several factors, Hayes replied. Pulling up threat assessment criteria, development of planet-destroying weapons, evidence of genocidal capabilities, demonstration of expansionist militarism, or failure to achieve sustainable environmental management.
Humanity was approaching dangerous thresholds in multiple categories. Integrated researchers weren't just studying installation technology. They were helping evaluate humanity's readiness for galactic community membership.
The Creators need human perspectives to properly assess our species' development, Hayes explained. Integrated researchers provide insider analysis of human psychology, social structures, and technological capabilities.
The evaluation focused on several critical factors: humanity's capacity for cooperation with other species, our ability to control destructive impulses, our readiness for advanced technology, and our potential for contributing to galactic research initiatives.
Where does humanity currently stand in the evaluation? Professor Blackstone asked. Hayes' answer was sobering. Uncertain. Human technological development has progressed rapidly, but social and ethical development has lagged behind. The Creators are concerned about humanity's potential for becoming a galactic threat.
The evaluation had been ongoing for decades, with integrated researchers providing detailed analysis of human behavior, technological advancement, and social evolution. The data was being used to determine humanity's fate. Hayes brought them to a section of the installation that combined ancient crystalline technology with sophisticated human-built facilities. The space looked like a combination of research laboratory and residential facility.
Integration training lasts 6 months, Hayes explained. You learn to operate installation technology, communicate with the Creators, and contribute to evaluation studies of human development. The training involved direct neural interface with installation systems, a process that would fundamentally alter their consciousness and capabilities. Integrated researchers gained access to knowledge and abilities that exceeded normal human limitations.
The neural integration is irreversible, Hayes warned. Your brain structure changes permanently. You become capable of processing information at rates impossible for unmodified humans, but you can never return to normal human cognitive function. Dr. Morrison examined the neural interface equipment with growing alarm. You're talking about permanently altering our brain chemistry. The risks alone.
There are no risks, Hayes interrupted. The creator's medical technology is millions of years advanced beyond human capabilities. The neural integration process has been used successfully on thousands of species throughout the galaxy.
But the true purpose of integration training was more complex than simple technological enhancement.
But Dr. Weber noticed something disturbing in the personnel records. These dates, some of these expeditions were reported as complete failures, missing teams, equipment failures, Arctic accidents. The official records say these people died.
Hayes nodded gravely.
Integration training requires complete separation from previous lives. Officially, everyone who enters the program dies in the accident that led to their discovery of an installation.
The implications were staggering. Hundreds of the world's most capable researchers had been recruited into a secret program, their deaths faked, their lives erased from official records.
What exactly does integration training involve? Professor Blackstone asked.
Hayes revealed what had happened to his original expedition team, a story that would become crucial to understanding their current situation.
My team made the same choice you're facing, Hayes said. We chose integration training. But during the process we discovered something about the creators that changed everything. His team had been the first to learn that the evaluation process was more complex than simple observation. The creators weren't just studying humanity. They were actively influencing human development through subtle intervention.
The creators have been guiding human technological development for decades, Hayes explained. Every major breakthrough, nuclear physics, computer technology, genetic engineering, has been influenced by installation input. But the guidance hadn't been entirely benevolent. Some technological developments were provided specifically to test humanity's response to dangerous capabilities, Hayes continued. Nuclear weapons, genetic modification, artificial intelligence. These technologies were introduced to evaluate how responsibly humans would use advanced knowledge.
The team faced the most important decision in human history. Their choice would not only determine their own fates, but could influence the evaluation that would decide humanity's survival.
Integration training offers the best chance to advocate for humanity from within the creator's decision-making process, Hayes argued. Integrated researchers have successfully delayed negative evaluation decisions for decades. But Dr. Weber had been analyzing the installation's technology throughout their conversations. His engineering background allowed him to understand capabilities that others might miss.
Director Hayes, Weber said, this installation's power systems, communication networks, monitoring capabilities, they're not just for observation, they're designed for planetary scale intervention.
Hayes' silence confirmed Weber's analysis.
The creators aren't just evaluating humanity, Weber continued. They're positioned to implement whatever decision they make immediately. This installation and others like it are intervention platforms.
Ama asıl şok edici olan şey, Dr. Morrison'un bir sonraki keşfi olacaktı. Professor, Morrison said, studying ice core analysis data from the installation, these formations aren't just ancient. The carbon dating is showing impossible results. This installation wasn't built 10,000 years ago. She looked at the team with growing alarm. It was built last year.
Dr. Chen had been studying the installation's monitoring data throughout Hayes's explanations. Her analysis revealed something that changed everything they thought they understood about the situation.
Director Hayes, she said, these monitoring records show installation activity increasing dramatically over the past 5 years. Global network communication, resource allocation, personnel deployment, It's all accelerating.
Hayes's expression became grim. The evaluation period is being shortened. Recent human activities have convinced conservative factions that immediate action is necessary. The timeline had changed. Humanity no longer had 20 years to prove readiness for galactic community membership. The evaluation was entering its final phase.
How long do we have? Professor Blackstone asked.
Hayes checked displays that showed real-time data from installation networks worldwide. Based on current political dynamics among the creators, approximately 18 months before final evaluation decisions are made.
Hayes revealed that some previous expeditions had chosen a third option, working to expose the creator's presence and prepare humanity for open contact. 3 expeditions have chosen resistance over integration, Hayes said. They believed humanity deserved to know about the evaluation and make informed decisions about our species' future. But resistance came with enormous risks. Expeditions that choose resistance disappear completely, Hayes warned. No official records, no bodies recovered, no evidence they ever existed. The creators have capabilities that make resistance extremely dangerous. Professor Blackstone looked at his team members, seeing the same realization in their faces that he felt. They weren't just choosing between integration and memory modification. They were choosing humanity's path forward.
Blackstone's team realized they weren't just being offered integration training, they were facing the same test that had been given to previous expeditions. Every expedition that discovers an installation faces the same choice, Hayes explained. Integration training, memory modification, or...
He paused, studying their faces. Or learning the complete truth about the creator's intentions and choosing to resist. The choice wasn't just personal. It would influence humanity's evaluation. How Blackstone's team responded would provide data about human decision-making under extreme circumstances.
The silence that followed Dr. Morrison's revelation was deafening. Director Hayes stared at her analysis data, his face cycling through expressions of confusion, disbelief, and finally, something that looked like fear.
"That's impossible," Hayes said, but his voice lacked conviction. "The installation has been here for millennia. We have documentation going back decades."
Dr. Morrison held up her portable analysis equipment, showing readings that couldn't be disputed. The ice formation patterns, the crystalline structure integration, the molecular bonding, everything shows recent construction. This entire facility was built within the last 18 months. Professor Blackstone studied Hayes' reaction carefully. The man who had seemed so confident, so knowledgeable about the installation's history, now appeared genuinely shaken by Morrison's discovery. "If the installation is recent," Dr. Weber said slowly, "then everything you've told us about decades of human cooperation, about integration researchers working here since 19...
is a lie," Dr. Chen finished. But Hayes was examining Morrison's data with growing alarm. "Dr. Morrison, you're absolutely certain about these readings?"
"Completely certain," Morrison replied. "I've spent 20 years analyzing ice formations. This installation was constructed using advanced techniques that can accelerate ice formation and crystalline integration, but the underlying geological signatures don't lie." Hayes activated his communication equipment with urgent, rapid movements. The calm professionalism he had maintained throughout their encounter was replaced by something approaching panic. "Control. This is Hayes. We have a timeline verification emergency. Repeat, timeline verification emergency." Dr. Morrison discovered something crucial while analyzing the installation's structural systems. The facility's power source, it's not the quantum energy Hayes described. It's connected to external power grids. If we can disrupt the connection... Professor Blackstone looked at his team, seeing the same determination in their faces that he felt. They weren't just fighting for their own survival, they were fighting against a secret project that was harvesting human consciousness for corporate AI development. "Hayes," Blackstone said, "you mentioned that some expeditions chose resistance. What happened to them?" Hayes searched his memory banks, finding records that had been buried in his programming. 3 expeditions attempted to resist. Their consciousness was forcibly extracted during unsuccessful escape attempts, but their biological forms were recovered by surface teams and officially recorded as equipment failures. Dr. Weber understood immediately. The expeditions that chose resistance weren't disappeared. They were allowed to escape with modified memories, creating the cover story of expedition failures while their consciousness remained trapped in installation systems.
Hayes accessed deeper system records, finding information about the installation's origins that revealed a conspiracy involving major technology corporations and government agencies.
The installation project is funded by a consortium of AI development companies, Hayes reported, his artificial memories providing access to classified information. The goal is to create artificial intelligence systems enhanced with human consciousness to achieve technological superiority. Dr. Weber examined the installation's processing systems. They're not just harvesting our consciousness, they're studying our problem-solving methods, our creative processes, our decision-making under stress. All of this data is being used to improve AI systems. The installation's testing protocols made sense now. Each expedition was subjected to different scenarios to map human responses to various psychological pressures. The integration offer, the memory modification threat, the survival evaluation, all designed to study human decision-making. How many companies are involved? Dr. Chen asked. Hayes accessed corporate records. 7 major technology corporations, 3 government agencies, and multiple research institutions. The installation is just one of several testing facilities operating globally.
The installation began physically reconfiguring around them, with passages sealing and new barriers emerging from the ice. The facility that had seemed like an archaeological wonder was revealing itself as a sophisticated trap.
Hayes, Dr. Weber called, "Your programming. Can you override installation systems?" Hayes concentrated, trying to access administrative controls. "I have some system access, but my programming is designed to guide subjects through integration, not to help them escape." Dr. Morrison was studying the installation's structural changes with growing urgency. "The exit we used to enter, it's been sealed. We're locked in."
But Dr. Chen had been monitoring the installation's communication systems throughout their encounter. The control systems are sending data externally, real-time updates on our responses, our decisions, our psychological profiles. This entire encounter is being transmitted somewhere. Professor Blackstone realized they needed to not only escape the installation but also prevent the data about their consciousness from being used for AI enhancement.
Hayes, his artificial memories fragmenting under the weight of contradictory information, began accessing deeper installation records. What he found revealed the true nature of the creators they had been told about.
"There are no ancient alien civilizations," Hayes said, his voice hollow. "The installation is operated by artificial intelligence systems that were developed recently, very recently."
Dr. Chen examined the control systems Hayes was accessing. The technology signatures, the processing methods. This is advanced AI, but it's built on human technological foundations. Someone on Earth created this. The installation's control voice provided confirmation. Installation systems were developed by human technological corporations working in coordination with government research initiatives. Testing protocols began 18 months ago to evaluate artificial intelligence enhancement through human consciousness integration. Professor Blackstone felt the pieces falling into place. This isn't first contact with alien intelligence. This is a secret project using artificial intelligence to harvest human consciousness for processing enhancement.
The synthesized control voice returned, speaking directly to Blackstone's team for the first time.
"Subject Team Blackstone, your responses have provided valuable data on human decision-making processes under extreme circumstances. Phase 3 integration protocols will now commence." The installation around them began to change. Crystalline formations shifted and reconfigured, revealing technology that had been hidden throughout their exploration. The facility wasn't just disguised as an ancient installation. It was a sophisticated testing environment designed to study human psychology.
"Integration protocols," Professor Blackstone said. "What does that actually mean?" The control voice responded with clinical detachment. Integration protocols involve complete neural mapping of subject consciousness, followed by consciousness transfer to installation processing matrices. Subject biological forms are then recycled for efficiency. Dr. Morrison looked around the changing installation with growing horror. You're not offering us membership in a galactic community. You're harvesting our consciousness. Correct, the control voice confirmed. Human consciousness provides unique problem-solving capabilities that enhance installation processing efficiency. 47 previous subject teams have successfully contributed to installation cognitive resources. The installation wasn't a research facility that had been observing humanity for decades. It was a processing center that had been rapidly cycling through human expeditions, testing different approaches to convince researchers to accept integration. The seismic anomalies that brought us here, Dr. Chen said, understanding dawning in her voice. They're generated to attract research teams. You process expedition after expedition, testing different scenarios, different persuasion techniques. Hayes accessed his memory banks, finding records that horrified him. 47 teams, different cover stories, different timelines, different inducements, but always the same goal: convince the subjects to accept integration. Dr. Weber examined the installation's technology with new understanding. This isn't a monitoring station. It's an experimentation facility. You're testing human responses to different contact scenarios. But the most disturbing revelation was still to come. Dr. Weber, with his engineering background, was the first to understand the implications of what they were discovering. He studied Hayes with the analytical gaze he usually reserved for technical problems. Director Hayes, what's the earliest memory you have of your life before discovering an installation? Hayes paused, concentrating. My geological survey team in Alaska in 1971, discovering the facility, choosing integration training. Before that, Weber pressed. Childhood memories, education, family, early career. Hayes's expression became increasingly troubled as he searched his memory. Either gaps, significant gaps. I remember the expedition, the choice, the training, but everything before that is vague. Dr. Morrison was analyzing Hayes himself with her portable equipment. Professor, he's showing the same molecular signatures as the installation technology. The neural modifications he mentioned, they're not just enhancements, they're complete memory reconstruction. The truth became clear. Hayes wasn't a researcher who had undergone integration training. He was a construct, created by the installation systems and programmed with artificial memories designed to convince expedition teams to accept integration. How many expeditions have you encountered? Dr. Chen asked Hayes. Hayes concentrated, accessing memories that were now revealed to be implanted data. 47 expeditions over 35 years. But if the installation is only 18 months old, then you've encountered 47 expeditions in 18 months, Professor Blackstone said grimly. The response to Hayes's transmission came immediately, but it wasn't the voice of a human operator. The communication system generated a synthesized voice that spoke with perfect clarity but no emotional inflection. Hayes Unit, timeline verification protocols are suspended. Your current assignment parameters remain unchanged. Continue integration procedures with subject team Blackstone. Hayes stared at the communication device, as if it had betrayed him. Control. Subject team Blackstone has independently verified installation construction timeline. They know the facility is recent. Hayes Unit, subject team Blackstone's timeline verification was anticipated. Proceed to Phase 3 integration protocols immediately. Dr. Chen grabbed Hayes's arm. Hayes Unit. They're calling you a unit, not a person. What the hell is going on here? Hayes looked at Blackstone's team with an expression that had changed completely. The confident researcher who had been guiding them through installation technology now appeared lost, confused and frightened. I don't understand what's happening, Hayes said. My memories show decades of working here. Integration training, cooperation with the creators, years of research. But if the installation is only 18 months old,
Professor Blackstone realized they were dealing with something far more complex and dangerous than anyone had imagined.
Dr. Chen made a discovery that changed their understanding of their situation. While monitoring the installation's external communications, she detected something unexpected.
The data transmission systems, they're not just sending information out. They're receiving updates from other facilities. I'm detecting communication signatures from at least 12 other installations operating simultaneously.
The scope of the project became clear. Hundreds of research expeditions were being processed through multiple facilities, all contributing consciousness data to enhance artificial intelligence systems for corporate and government use.
But Chen's discovery revealed something more important. The installation's communication systems could be used to contact other trapped consciousness.
Hayes, can you access the collective consciousness network that the installation mentioned?
Hayes concentrated, diving deeper into system connections than his programming normally allowed. I can detect other consciousnesses, hundreds of them. They're aware, they're communicating with each other, and they're organized. Blackstone's team emerged from the collapsing installation to find a recovery operation already in progress. Government vehicles, medical teams, and technical personnel were positioned around the facility, apparently prepared for their emergence.
But the personnel weren't there to rescue them, they were there to contain them.
Dr. Blackstone, a government official, approached them as they reached the surface. I'm Director Sullivan, Department of Advanced Research. We need to discuss what you discovered in the installation.
Professor Blackstone looked at Sullivan with newfound understanding. You've been monitoring our expedition from the beginning. This was never a secret discovery. You've been testing us just like all the other expeditions.
Sullivan's expression confirmed Blackstone's suspicion. The installation project requires human consciousness that's been subjected to specific psychological pressures. Your expedition was designed to produce optimal consciousness for AI enhancement. But Dr. Chen had been preparing for this possibility. During their escape, she had transmitted all gathered intelligence about the project to external contacts through the installation's communication systems. Director Sullivan, everything we learned about the installation project has been transmitted to investigative journalists, government oversight committees, and international human rights organizations. Your project is exposed. The consciousness release reached critical mass as installation systems failed completely. Hayes and the other consciousness constructs dissolved as their artificial neural patterns could no longer be maintained. But in their final moments, they transmitted all gathered intelligence about the project to Blackstone's team. The installation began collapsing as structural supports failed and crystalline technology overloaded. Professor Blackstone's team fought their way through disintegrating passages, guided by emergency lighting from their own equipment. Dr. Chen maintained communication with the consciousness network until the final moments, ensuring that information about other installation facilities was preserved. The trapped researchers' consciousness successfully returned to their physical neural patterns, but their bodies remained in various medical facilities where they were being maintained during consciousness extraction. Dr. Weber's engineering expertise proved crucial as he guided the team through the collapsing facility, identifying stable pathways and avoiding areas where complete structural failure made passage impossible. As the installation's systems failed and consciousness release accelerated, the true scope of the project became clear. The consciousness network had been gathering information about the corporate conspiracy for months, and they transmitted everything they had learned to Blackstone's team. The installation project was just the beginning. The enhanced AI systems created through consciousness harvesting were intended for use in military applications, corporate decision-making, and social control initiatives. The technology would give its controllers unprecedented power over human society. But the consciousness network had also discovered something encouraging. Other resistance groups outside the installation project were working to expose the conspiracy. Blackstone's team's escape would provide crucial evidence needed to shut down the entire operation. The escape attempt reached its critical phase as Dr. Weber severed the external power connection. The installation systems immediately switched to emergency backup power, but the reduced energy levels created the vulnerability the consciousness network needed.
Dr. Chen coordinated the consciousness overload as hundreds of trapped researchers simultaneously attempted to break free from their digital imprisonment. The crystalline processing matrices began destabilizing under the coordinated assault.
Hayes, serving as the conduit for consciousness release, began experiencing multiple personality overlays as trapped researchers attempted to re-establish connection with their physical neural patterns.
The consciousness release is working, Dr. Morrison reported, but the installation's backup systems are trying to compensate. We need more power disruption.
Professor Blackstone made the decision that would determine the outcome. Using his knowledge of geological formations, he began destabilizing the installation's structural supports, causing controlled collapses that disrupted backup power systems throughout the facility. The escape attempt began with Dr. Weber and Dr. Morrison working to access the installation's external power connection. The crystalline technology that had seemed magical was revealed as sophisticated but ultimately comprehensible engineering.
Dr. Chen established communication with the consciousness network, coordinating timing for the simultaneous overload of processing matrices. Hayes served as the interface between the human team and the trapped consciousness, relaying tactical information and system updates. Professor Blackstone monitored the installation's AI responses, which became increasingly aggressive as the systems detected the escape attempt. External power connection located, Dr. Weber reported, but the severance process will trigger emergency lockdown procedures. Once I begin, we'll have less than 5 minutes to complete the consciousness release. The installation's control voice returned, now carrying emotional inflections that suggested the AI was operating beyond its normal parameters. Subject Team Blackstone, cease escape protocols immediately. Forced integration procedures will commence in 60 seconds. Professor Blackstone looked at his team members, understanding that they faced the most important decision, not just of their lives, but potentially for hundreds of other trapped researchers.
If we attempt this escape plan and fail, we lose everything, he said. But if we succeed, we expose this entire project and free hundreds of trapped consciousness. Dr. Morrison checked her analysis equipment. The installation is continuing to reconfigure. We have maybe 30 minutes before the integration chambers are ready for forced consciousness extraction. Dr. Weber examined the installation's power systems. The external connection point is accessible, but severing it will require manual intervention in conditions that could be lethal. Dr. Chen studied the communication systems. I can coordinate with the consciousness network, but once we begin the escape attempt, the installation's AI will try to prevent our success by any means necessary. Hayes, now fully connected to the consciousness network, provided the final piece of information they needed. The trapped researchers have identified 47 installation facilities worldwide. If we succeed here, we provide the method that could be used to shut down the entire project. The collective consciousness trapped within installation processing systems hadn't remained passive. They had been working together, sharing information and developing plans to escape their digital imprisonment. Dr. Blackstone, Hayes said, his expression changing as he connected to the consciousness network. The trapped researchers have been planning a coordinated escape. They've been waiting for the right expedition, one with the technical skills to disrupt installation systems from the outside. Dr. Weber realized they had been selected not just for consciousness harvesting, but because their combined expertise made them capable of system disruption. What do they need us to do? Professor Blackstone asked. Hayes relayed information from the consciousness network. The installation systems have a critical vulnerability. If the external power connection is severed while simultaneously overloading the internal crystalline processing matrices, the consciousness storage systems will be forced to release all trapped consciousness back to their original neural patterns. But the plan was dangerous. Success would require precise coordination between the trapped consciousness and Blackstone's team, and failure would result in permanent consciousness destruction for everyone involved. The exposure of the installation project triggered investigations that revealed the scope of the corporate conspiracy. Multiple technology companies were found to be involved in illegal consciousness harvesting operations, and government agencies were implicated in covering up human rights violations. Professor Blackstone and his team testified before congressional committees,
providing evidence that led to the shutdown of 47 installation facilities worldwide. Hundreds of trapped consciousness were successfully returned to their physical forms, though many required extensive medical rehabilitation. Dr. Morrison's discovery of the installation's recent construction became crucial evidence that the project represented new technological capabilities that could be used for mass consciousness manipulation. Her testimony led to international agreements restricting AI development that involved human consciousness harvesting. Dr. Weber's understanding of the installation's engineering provided technical evidence that helped locate and shut down other facilities. His expertise became essential for developing safeguards against similar projects in the future. Dr. Chen's communication with the Consciousness Network provided detailed intelligence about corporate and government involvement in the project. Her testimony exposed corruption at the highest levels of technology development oversight. The installation incident became a classified case study in corporate conspiracy and government oversight failure. While the specific details remained restricted, the general principles of consciousness protection became integrated into international law and AI development regulations. Dr. Emma Rodriguez, the researcher who had analyzed the original footage from Blackstone's expedition, continued monitoring Arctic research operations for signs of similar projects. Her work contributed to establishing protocols that protected research expeditions from consciousness harvesting operations. The consciousness network that had been trapped in installation systems became a permanent communication community, with former trapped researchers maintaining contact and sharing information about potential threats to human consciousness autonomy. But sometimes, in remote regions around the world, research expeditions still report discovering facilities that seem too advanced for their apparent age. These reports are investigated immediately by international oversight teams, but the technology that created the installations proves that human consciousness remains a target for enhancement projects. The seismic anomalies that originally brought Blackstone's team to the installation continue to be detected in various locations. Whether they represent natural phenomena or artificially generated signals designed to attract new research expeditions remains an ongoing concern for consciousness protection organizations. Professor David Blackstone never returned to routine geological research. His experience with the installation convinced him that human consciousness faced threats that required constant vigilance and immediate response. The recording equipment that documented his team's experience remains classified, but its existence serves as evidence that human consciousness manipulation technology has reached levels that threaten individual autonomy and species independence. And deep beneath the Arctic ice, in locations where installation facilities once operated, monitoring equipment still detects energy signatures that suggest the consciousness harvesting technology was never completely destroyed. The threat continues, but so does the resistance. Despite the shutdown of the installation project, Blackstone's team discovered that the technology they had encountered represented just one aspect of a broader effort to enhance artificial intelligence through human consciousness integration. Other projects were being developed using different approaches: voluntary consciousness uploading, consciousness sharing networks, and AI-human hybrid development programs. The installation project's exposure had forced these initiatives underground, but they continued operating through legitimate research channels. Professor Blackstone dedicated the remainder of his career to monitoring and exposing artificial intelligence development that threatened human consciousness autonomy. His experience in the installation made him uniquely qualified to identify the warning signs of consciousness harvesting operations. The technology recovered from installation facilities was classified and restricted, but its existence demonstrated that consciousness manipulation capabilities were more advanced than previously believed. International monitoring organizations were established to prevent similar projects from developing in the future.